The finale to Industry is just around the corner, and with the penultimate episode providing the most shocking moments of the entire season, with Whitney going AWOL and Yas being prepared to throw the person that she loves under the bus to take the fall for Tender's collapse. There's now everything to play for in the finale, and it could truly go in any direction. There are questions such as what happened to Whitney, is Yas going to be able to escape without any blame, and also will Henry end up facing jail time? Well, with the trailer recently being released, let's dive into it, break it down, and I'll also give my theories and predictions on what I think will happen. Here is Industry Season 4 Episode 8 Trailer Explained and Theories. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. So, the trailer for the finale opened up with Henry Muck looking out of his window after reading the article that had been written, and as we know from later on in the trailer, it was an article that was written about him that Yas and Alexander essentially gave the green light to go ahead, which put him front and center of the scandal that's been going on with Tender. They felt like Henry needed an element of tough love after the privilege that he'd had throughout the entirety of his life had pretty much driven him to the point of being an entitled individual that thought he could get away with anything. There was a look of fear in his eyes, and I feel like that look was stemming from him knowing that he was now alone without Yas to comfort him, but also without Whitney, and the fact that Henry was there prepared to take the brunt of the abuse and blame that was going to be coming in his way. This was actually supported by the fact that he was being ambushed by a ton of press as he was approaching the gate to get inside. There were journalists and photographers all looking to get the latest scoop on Henry and what he thought of what was happening with Tender and his involvement. The article was positioning Britain as a place that allows people to make comebacks even when they seemingly don't deserve them. As this was being said, Jennifer Bevan had a piece of dialogue that was a voiceover, and it was criminally minded anomalies, but Tender is not an anomaly. The market apparatus will always find its scapegoat. Within this section, she's speaking of the broader industry itself and how Tender isn't the only company that's out there that's immoral with their approach and are prepared to lie and fabricate who and what they are in order to generate more revenue. Plus, with her speaking of scapegoats, Tender is essentially that of the industry, but I imagine she could also be aware of the fact that Henry Muck is the scapegoat in all of this. As she said this, there was a shot of Henry and Yas embracing one another. However, I don't feel like Yas will be wanting to be with Henry. She's going to have been a large reason as to why the person that she loved was thrown under the bus, but even a damaged and wounded Henry with his tail between his legs is going to crawl back to her, which speaks volumes to the type of character that he is. However, with Yas seemingly allowing him to crawl back to her, despite not truly wanting him there, it's going to speak volumes of her too. She had that dead behind the eye look like we saw during the previous episode, so if she's gone back to him, then there's definitely going to be a reluctance there. As well as that, there was a scene of Henry in his dressing gown screaming down whilst sitting at the table. This is most likely going to be his reaction to reading the article about him that turned up at the doorstep that's going to make national news. After this, we saw that both Harper and Yas were then in Paris, and Yas said to Harper, "Remember babe, it's Paris. Anything could happen." As she said this, it cut to Sebastian toasting at a dinner, and as we know, Sebastian is a character that sits on the right side of the political spectrum, and with Labour taking a hit due to Jennifer and Lisa's connection to Tender, I wonder if he'll suddenly have a more prominent focus and improvement in ratings, which could end up pushing him forward into the spotlight in Season 5 of the show when it returns. Both Yasmin and Harper were at this dinner, and it makes me wonder if this is where Yas is going to start to use Hayley. The next piece of dialogue in the trailer was Yas speaking with Harper, and she said, "We both know this world will own you if you don't harden up." So I imagine whatever gets spoken about at the dinner and the potential involvement that Sebastian might want the both of them to have, Harper might have her reservations. I feel like over the course of this season, we've seen a more human side to Harper, and I think this could be all building towards the resolution of the character in the final episode. With the look that she had on her face, it seems like she's going to take offense to what Yas said, and with her ultimately storming out, I feel like the relationship that found a form of reconciliation could actually have reached its end quite quickly. Alongside this, there were a couple of shots that featured. One was of Hayley leaving Yaz's hotel room, and the other was of Yas laying down on the bed. With there being a lot of flirtatious acts and words between both Hayley and Yas throughout the season, and Hayley saying to Yas a couple of episodes back that she wanted everything that she had, I wonder if there's going to be a moment of intimacy, or if there's going to be some kind of mentoring and using of Hayley in this situation, just like what Whitney did with her, which I think would mark a dark direction for Yas. In the next section, we saw Harper saying the words, "I want to protect myself," which connected to the fact that her and Yas might have different opinions, and also that Harper might be looking to get out of the game due to being a slightly changed person. As she said that, it was interrupted with Yas walking through her own front door and looking in the mirror. This is where I feel we'll see her potentially going back to Henry, and with it being intercut with, "I want to protect myself," I actually think it's going to be the opposite for her, and I don't feel like she'll be doing that by going back with him. I think her and Harper's resolution to this story will be completely different. Yas said how she was basically trying to make out that she was just one of several hundred employees, when in actual fact she was calling the shots on certain things, so I wonder if she's going to end up in trouble with the law. After this, we then saw shots of Henry walking outside to a crowd of news reporters and journalists, as I'm presuming he's had to give an answer on behalf of Tender as he's been left on his own. In response to Harper saying, "I want to protect myself," Kwabena said, "Not at the cost of everything else." So in my mind, it's showing that Harper could be looking to walk away from it all and might have had her time with it. Following that, we then saw a quick succession of shots that added to the tension and caused it to build towards the climax. We had one of Henry looking like he was completely lost. I did actually predict and have a fear that with legacy being the most important thing that he cares about, if his name is being dragged through the mud all over again, could he end up doing what his father did all of those years ago when he was the exact same age as Henry? There was then one of Henry going to Yas and them embracing, which I don't think is going to be genuine on Yaz's side. One of what I'm imagining is Tender's stock price dropping at the time of opening at 8 AM, which is what they predicted. Sweet Pea had a smile on her face, so I think it shows that they're in the money and they're happy with what they're seeing on screen with the price. There was one of Tony Day being escorted out by the authorities, which showed that maybe he should have taken that deal with Sweet Pea when he had the chance. This is most likely going to be a result of the new audit and investigation that's going to be happening with Tender. There was one of Yas and Hayley together, and this is where I'm starting to think that Yas could end up using Hayley just like how Whitney did in order for her own personal gain. So it'll show that Yas has become something that she didn't initially like. There was then one of Whitney, which I can't quite tell if it's a shot of him on a plane from a previous episode or if it's a new one, which could mean that we might be seeing Whitney on our screens in the next episode. And then it ultimately concluded with Harper saying the words, "It's not for me." I think this could either be her beginning to walk away following the success of the takedown of Tender, or it could be the proposal that I imagine Yas is going to put forward to her. On another note, the shots of both Whitney and Harper look very similar, and it seems like they could be on the same plane. So I'm intrigued to see if and how that could actually come about. As I said earlier, within this season, we've seen Harper not necessarily soften up, but the more human side to the character has been coming out, and we've seen her looking for a sense of normality. Scheming with Yas or going off with Whitney simply wouldn't fall into that new mindset that she's got. So I think the sharpness that she was originally known for is going to begin to blunt. Then with that, the trailer came to a close. It very much feels like the finale is going to be about Henry's mental state and the damage that's going to be done to him. And also Yas and Harper going on new ventures whilst potentially setting up season 5 of the show. We don't know who's going to end up taking the blame for Tender's collapse, and I do wonder if Whitney is going to make it out of this season alive. I guess we'll just have to see. So, there you have it. Industry Season 4 Episode 8 Trailer Explained and Theories.